Good day, gentlemen. Breaking up with her would feel a lot like peace right now, huh? I get it, dude. In the first 4 years in my own relationship, I was seriously thinking about breaking up with her multiple times because it felt like the relationship was holding me back in life. I was building my first business at the time, and breaking up felt like the only way to success. But in the end, I never did it. Not because of a fear of being single, but because I learned some very valuable lessons that most men unfortunately never learn, and that's why they struggle to combine success and love in their own life. I'll give you these lessons, unfiltered and personal, because, man, if I hadn't learned this stuff, I would have ended my relationship. And I would have only realized the gravity of my mistake years later when it was already too late. I don't want anyone to go through that level of regret. So let's not waste any time here. Here's my story and the 4 big lessons I learned. Look, back then, I simply felt like I wasn't getting a lot out of the relationship. I was so focused on my business and my personal development that any time away from that felt like time wasted. And when I did spend time with her, a lot of the time I didn't really have fun. I didn't really enjoy myself. Our sex life had gotten fairly boring at that time, and we were just kind of hanging out because that's what couples do, or at least that's what it felt like. And I also got complacent during that time, not doing what I said I would do, training, working, reading, that stuff. And of course, that made me doubt the relationship even more, made me think even more that it was holding me back. The thing is, I knew she was a great woman, and I knew I loved her, but I thought that maybe I'll have to do the whole relationship thing later, once I had already built success for myself. There was this internal conflict where I knew I want a good woman by my side, and I knew she was a good woman, but at the same time, I knew that I want to build meaningful things, meaningful businesses for this world. And I knew that I'll want to do that until the end of my life. So there was this conflict of, well, what do I focus on really? And I thought at that time, you know what? I'll just do the whole relationship thing later. And a big part of that was me seeing all these 20-year-old millionaires on social media and having all the red pill guys on YouTube tell me that women are a distraction. So then why did I end up never breaking up with her? Why did I stay in the relationship? And how did I get to a point where now I have the success and the relationship? Well, let's get into those 4 lessons that helped me make that decision. And lesson 1 is, I realized that I want both. I want love and success. So if I don't do it with her, I'll have to do it with another woman. And if I just end this relationship, that means that I never overcome this challenge, and I never realize what it actually takes. I never learn the lessons, learn the skills to actually build this relationship. And so, sure, I'll get with the next woman, but I'll still be the same person. I still haven't learned those lessons. I still haven't learned those skills. And so, during the honeymoon phase, that might work great with the next woman, but then afterwards, the relationship will develop into the same direction where I feel like it's holding me back, and it will likely end in the exact same way. And I'll be honest, at this point, my head was still telling me, no, okay, then just do this later. You don't have to do this with her. Build the success first. Until I understood lesson number 2. And that is, the older I get, the more responsibility I have, and the more difficult it will be for me to learn these skills, because there will be more on my plate. There will be more people depending on me. The more success I build, the more people will depend on me. Business partners, clients, employees who I have to pay so that they can put food on their family's table. And what happened from there is I understood, if I don't do this now, it will only get worse. It will only get more difficult. Now, maybe you are already in that position, and now you're thinking, okay, I'll just build more success because that means I can delegate more stuff so I have less on my plate, and then I can focus on relationships. But dude, I've spoken with so many successful men. I've worked with so many successful men in my mentorship who have tried this, and they still came to me for help because it didn't work. David Deida said this: stop hoping for a completion of anything in life. Stop hoping for a completion of anything in life. Stop hoping that you can complete this thing and then this other thing will work easily. Maybe you've already made this experience. If you're at level 50 in one area, but level 5 in another area, what will that do to your confidence in this first area? What will that do to your self-image? How will that affect that first area? Well, this area at level 5 will pull this one down, or at least keep it at level 50 and keep it from going higher. Why? Well, it's the same thing if you're working out. The guy who only trains arms, only trains upper body, he's gonna make gains at the start, but eventually he's gonna hit a plateau. Why? Because he never trained his legs. And so his body is like, well, dude, why would we allocate any fucking resources to your arms when they're already huge, but you have chicken legs? That can't work. And it's the same thing here. This one area of your life where you're not where you want to be, that's the bottleneck that holds everything else back. You know this with health, right? If you're in shit health, you won't be able to work hard on your business. You won't be able to actually be present with your girlfriend. You'll be focused on health. And unless you get that up, the other two areas will suffer. And this leads me to lesson 3, because a good woman will make you so much more successful than you could ever be by yourself. I learned this lesson from people like Napoleon Hill, or more modern people like Chris Bumstead, Alex Hormozy, but mainly Napoleon Hill. Because when he wrote his masterpiece, Think and Grow Rich, he studied the 500 most influential, most successful people in the world around 100 years ago, which back then were mostly men, right? And what he found out two very important things. Number one, all these men that got to that point had a great woman by their side who inspired them, who drove them to greatness. And you know this feeling when you're in a relationship, when you're in love, you want to be better. You want to be the best that you can, not just for yourself, but also for her and maybe for your future children together. But then secondly, Napoleon Hill realized something or observed something that most people never realize. And that is, once these men had hit a certain level of success and they became a bit arrogant and they traded the woman who helped them get there for more women or younger women. I shouldn't say traded, that sounds like you trade like sports cards or something, but they essentially ended things with the woman that helped them get there because they thought, oh, I want more women now, or I want a younger woman now, whatever. And what Napoleon Hill observed with those men is that they fell off of their success. And not only did they lose the success, they also lost the woman or the women that they had in their life at that time. And that's what I said earlier when I said, if I had broken up with her because of this, because I wanted success, I would have only realized how much of a mistake that was years later, once it was already too late, once she had already moved on. So when I learned this from Napoleon Hill, I thought, okay, I think my girl is that kind of woman. And my life now, years later, proves that I was right. Plus, building success from zero with her by my side made sure that she doesn't love me for what I have or what I can do, but for me, for myself, for who I am as a person, as a man. The more success that I would have built before I had built a great relationship, the more difficult it would have been to, first of all, just find a good woman who actually loves me for me, but secondly, more importantly, more difficult, actually trust her, actually believe that she loved me for me and not for my money or my success or my connections or whatever else. And I'll be honest, back then, this all made sense to me rationally, but emotionally, I was still stuck in this old paradigm where I thought it's either love or success. I was still thinking about ending the relationship because, well, it was still this thing where if I spend time with her, I can't spend that time on the business. And that changed only when I learned lesson number 4. And I don't know if you can see this through the camera, but this is doing quite a lot with me when I'm thinking back to those times. Like, I'm actually feeling this deeply because I don't think as a man you forget about the mistakes that you almost made. And sure, here's the thing. I know now that I would have been fine, even if I had ended the relationship. I would have found another great woman. I would have still built success. Sure, 100%. No doubt about it. Because I trust myself. But still, this feeling would have lingered within me. And it would have still just been this regret that would have stayed with me. So, anyway, let's get into this number 4. I understood this back in summer of 2022 because at that time my girl was traveling for a couple months and I was thinking, fuck, finally I can spend my days exactly how I want to spend them. Finally, I don't have to split between girlfriend and business and whatever else. And I made a lot of progress in that time. But then I realized something that was very important for me to realize. I understood that I could have done that all along if I had simply had the balls to set healthy boundaries with her and had the skills and the knowledge knowing like how to actually set boundaries with her. Let me put it this way. Why would she want me to lose? Why would she want me to not succeed? Why would she want to hold me back? She doesn't. She wants me to succeed. Of course she does. But if I pretend like everything is fine and I don't talk to her about what I actually need from her, then she will never know. So, for example, now that me and my girl live together, for me always, but now this got very important, I always, for the last pretty much decade, I protected my morning hours like a fucking golden egg because I get so much done in the first couple hours of the day. And now that we live together, she knows that I like my mornings undisturbed and undistracted. And so she will not talk to me for the first couple hours of the day, which is fantastic. We'll just get out of bed, talk a bit here and there. If there's like any small things, I'll take a shower. We'll give each other a hug, have a kiss, whatever. Have a kiss? My English is weird sometimes, man. I'm German. But you get the point. And then I'll just go off to work and she will not disturb me. Even though we're in the same house, maybe sometimes even in the same room, she will not talk to me. And she does that because she wants me to win, even though it hurts her a bit. It makes her a bit sad when we don't get to spend time together. So in the end, how did I make this decision to stay with her? And more importantly, how did I get to a point where my relationship supports my success? Well, I want to give you a bonus lesson because I recently spoke to one of the men that I've worked with in my mentorship named Jacob. He became a good friend of mine, honestly. And he perfectly articulated something that I want to give to you as well. He came to me for help back in 2024 because he struggled with this exact thing of combining his relationship with his success, with his goals, with his pursuit. And when we recently caught up, he said, it's just almost impossible to go through two dips at the same time. What the fuck does he mean? Let me explain this for you. What he means is this. There's this marketing god named Seth Godin who wrote a very valuable book called The Dip. And in this book, he explains this concept that, simply put, he goes way more into depth, of course, but simply put, things get worse before they get better. You have to go through a dip to get to the other side, right? Let's look at the company Amazon.com, for example. They lost money for 14 years. Massive dip before they got to where they are now. And relationships go through a similar dip after the honeymoon phase ends. But most people, they quit in the dip, whether in business or in a relationship, because it's difficult to get through that dip. And I, back then, was trying to go through two dips at the same time. I tried to build love and success at the same time, build the skills for both at the same time. And if I would have continued on this path, I would have most likely lost both. And so instead, I chose to go through the love dip first, because not only, like I said, love makes it easier for men to succeed in life, but also because if I have this supportive, peaceful, passionate relationship, if I have learned the skills to build that, it's fairly easy to sustain that. And then I can focus all my energy with the additional support and inspiration from her into my work, into my goals. People say this, but they don't practice it. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's what I practiced, and that's what got me to where I am in life. Chris Williamson always talks about escape velocity for good reason, right? If you look at a rocket that is trying to go to space, it takes 99.99999% of energy for that rocket to get out of Earth's gravitational pull. But once it's out, it can just coast. That's the difference between building and sustaining. So once I had built my relationship to that level, not only was I able to put all my energy into building success, but also the relationship and my girl supported me in that, inspired me, gave me She gave me the trust that I was sometimes lacking within myself. Because I'll be honest, at that time, she was the only one who believed in me. Even I didn't believe in myself. I'll be honest with you, man. She believed in me. Parents, friends from back in school, they all told me to go to university and just live a normal life, basically, right? I didn't want to do that. But I doubted myself heavily. She didn't. And I can tell you of so many more men that I've worked with who struggled to build more and more success for themselves. And once they solved the relationship with my help, once they went through that dip in the relationship and got to the other side of it with my help, suddenly their success took off as well. There's people like Hannes, Dan, there's so many more. I can continue talking about this. Maybe you haven't yet built the skills necessary to have a great relationship after the honeymoon phase. I say this, and I don't mean to be a dick here, but I say this because it takes zero skill to have a great relationship in the honeymoon phase. And the reason why 99.9% of relationships go downhill after the honeymoon phase is not because that's just how it is, but because all those 99.9% of men never actually develop the skills to not just sustain, but to deepen love and sexual desire for each other after the honeymoon phase. Brother, again, I don't say this to insult you. I say this because I wish someone would have told me this. Beginner skills can't lead to a thriving relationship. So I recently made this video for you where I cover the 4 biggest mistakes I see my clients make after the honeymoon phase is over and how they overcame them. You can go watch that right now. Have a great day.